Hello. Today I'm taking a look at a wine that I think is quite exciting and certainly slightly offbeat, Australian white wine. This is Tahbilk's 2020 vintage Marsanne. So this is a wine from the Nagambie Lakes region in the Goulburn Valley in central Victoria. So we're probably a little less than 2 hours drive north of Melbourne. It's quite an inland region, but a region whose climate, whose otherwise warm climate, is moderated by the water of the lakes and the river there, making it suitable for grape growing. The region's made a bit of a sort of a niche speciality out of cultivating Marsanne as a single varietal wine, with both Tahbilk and another nearby estate, Mitchelton, specialising in producing it. I mean, generally, Marsanne, a grape variety that originated in the Rhone Valley in the first place, is normally blended with one of its parent varieties, Roussanne, which is a more aromatic variety. So the combination of the aromatic Roussanne and the weightier Marsanne works really quite nicely, and you see that in white wines from places such as Hermitage, Creux Hermitage, Saint-Péray, where it's also used to make sparkling wine, and a certain amount of it is small proportions are sometimes blended into some Hermitage and Creux Hermitage blends as well, in fact not blended in, co-fermented with the Syrah in those wines, which helps fix colour and tannins and things like that. So Roussanne generally is a very rare grape variety. Tahbilk, quite a historic estate in an Australian context. They were founded in 1860, when the first plantings were, and included in the first plantings were some white Hermitage cuttings that had been bought from an estate in the Yarra Valley, slightly to the south. None of those plantings still survive, but Tahbilk still have some of the oldest Marsanne vines anywhere in the world. They have a block that was planted in 1927. So in 1925 the estate had been purchased by the Purbrick family, who are still owners. They're now in their fourth and fifth generation of ownership. So 2 years after they'd taken over, they were sort of revitalising what had been one of Australia's biggest and most successful wine companies. So there was replanting going on, and some of these 1927 Marsanne vines were planted at that stage. The wines are there's quite a particular style at Tahbilk. They allow the juice to oxidise a bit during production, and the idea is to produce a wine a dry white wine that will age over a period of a decade or so. I mean, I love the suggestion that one of their winemakers made once, that you can buy a case of this and drink a wine a year for 12 years, and you'll see how the development of the style, and that would be quite an interesting thing to engage in. And as the wine is priced at in most markets, this is priced at about $15 US a bottle. It would be an affordable exercise for most of us. And I think quite a rewarding one as well. The wine itself, there's very little done to the fruit to manipulate its flavour. So once it's been allowed to oxidise, it'll ferment. That's done in stainless steel tanks. The wine doesn't undergo malolactic conversion. It doesn't spend time with its yeast lees, so there aren't sort of manipulations going on. It's simply bottled and allowed to age in the bottle. So let's have a look at it, shall we? First thing to say, quite a nice intensity of medium to rich yellow there. One might almost say a tiny sort of pale golden hint. Smelling it, there's an underlying sort of slightly honeyed richness and some nice lifted blossom, orange blossom notes, but actually what's at the fore aromatically is a sort of a gunflint note, and you know, slightly, almost slight smokiness. Now we know the wine's not been aged in oak, so that's not smokiness coming from that. I think that's a fermentation aroma, that sort of wet stone minerality coming through there. So let's taste the wine, shall we? The wine has a rounded, medium-bodied texture. It's dry. That sort of fermentation note I'm talking about is coming through as a sort of a saline note now. There's a slightly oily texture and sort of rich honeyed hints as well at the finish, just hints. The core fruit is a sort of a white peach note, and there are those sort of lifted notes of orange blossom. And then as you go on, there's, I mean, the alcohol is 13% according to the label, so it's adding a little bit of warmth and roundness to the finish. But there's a slight sort of spicy note at that stage, and you get notes almost of sort of mandarin orange, and then as candied lemon peel, those sort of things. There's good acidity. There's mouth-watering freshness. So there is a sort of a citric note there, and that's giving nice length to the finish. It's not exceptionally long, but there's a nice intensity out to the finish, and as I say, you're left with that sort of candied peel, slightly honeyed note, and there's an oily touch to the texture at that stage. I think this is just starting to show some developed notes, and I think it would be an interesting exercise to age this wine. I think for the price that I'm talking about, the quality is excellent, and the style is very individualistic. So yes, I'd heartily suggest trying a bottle or two or three of Tahbilk's Marsanne. The 2020 vintage is the one I'm looking at here. So if you found this interesting, please do join us again. Thank you very much for watching. Bye now.